All right, what's going on, ladies and gentlemen? And it is Jake representing now the Fighting Spotlight as we are getting a chance to have our first interview live on YouTube for quite some time. And today, I'm very honored the fact that we get a chance to have a woman who's been doing the sport for so long. And real quick though, before we get joined here, if you guys want to get a chance to follow us, make sure you guys go do so at the Fighting Spotlight. She is, we're doing everything we can for women's martial arts and for everything that we're trying to do for them because they definitely deserve this platform. So without further ado, hang on one second as I try to get my do not disturb back on. Alrighty, we'll go from there and let's go ahead and bring in Miss Joy Miller.
Hey,
Hey, how are you?
great. How are you?
Doing good, doing good. How's things been going? I noticed that we have some big fight news coming up in October, don't we?
Life is real good right now. Man, I am just incredibly blessed and being in a good place emotionally, physically. Lots of exciting things happening right now, and one of them happens to be I am dusting off the gloves, coming out of retirement, and taking maybe one last MMA fight. I'll never say it's my last one. I'm going to be 80 years old and want someone to hold my walker while I climb in the cage. But yeah, for the foreseeable future, it's my last MMA.
And without further, and of course, not to mention that though, if you guys want to get a chance to follow her on social media, make sure you guys go do so at Little Miss Violence because the one thing I can say, Joy, is that I've actually got a chance to watch most of your fights from TOC, which shout out to them and everybody that's been a part of TOC. Shout out to them. You know who you are, and we want to give all the credit where credit's due because that's how I got a chance to experience what you've been doing in the cage. And the story you have is crazy to look back on, doesn't it?
Yeah, it's a wild ride. This life is, but it's a heck of a ride, and it's so much fun.
It's definitely an amazing ride for sure. So let's go ahead and get things started. So we all get inspired by what we do best. Me when it comes to interviewing, you when it comes to fighting. So what inspired you to start fighting?
Oh, that's a great question. Um, so many years ago, I won't say how many. It's dating myself. But many years ago, I was a very bookish person, a very meek and mild mannered person. And I just finished school and had started a job and was kind of looking for a stress reliever kind of thing. And I struggle with anxiety and stuff like a lot of people do. And I just needed an outlet to kind of get my brain to turn off for a little while. And I found a women's cardio kickboxing class and I loved it. I fell in love with it from the day I walked in there. And I just noticed over time that when I left, I felt so much better about myself and I felt strong and I felt capable. And for whatever time I was on those mats, my worries were left at the door. And it was just such a great serenity for me. And that's kind of odd, but it is. So from there, I got into Taekwondo and was competing heavily almost every weekend for a number of years and did pretty well on the point fighting circuit, won some awards and such. And then I thought, came to a crossroads in life where I was having to relocate because of job situation. And I thought, you know what? It's probably time to leave that world behind and see what else is out there. So that I want to know what the real thing feels like. So I started MMA training and it just stuck. I love it. I love it so much. And so from there I did some um kickboxing fights and then MMA fights and that's just kind of what led me to where I'm at now.
Another thing too is that people use MMA for a lot of different stuff. But for women who are watching this, is that it's not only used for a good chance to fight. It's also a very great way to learn self defense, don't you think?
Absolutely. I mean, I'm a small person in stature, but and I'm not delusional enough to think that I can kick anybody's butt out there on the street. However, I will say this. If someone picked me as a victim, they've chosen the wrong girl because they've got a very hard victim on their hands. Not to say they couldn't take me, anything can happen, but it gives me personally a sense of confidence that I'm prepared for whatever the world has to bring me, whether that be violence or not. And
Yeah.
that's a great feeling. And I really wish that all women could feel that because it's comforting and empowering.
especially whenever they take part in, of course, women classes. I mean, you never know what you're going to miss out. So if you guys are from the Virginia area or any area that has women's training, I mean, go be a part of it because it's so fun. It's so fun to get a chance to interact with people that you never met before that will get a chance to understand you so many ways. And of course, another thing I want to get a chance to talk about, and which, by the way, shout out to Withfield, Virginia, because you trained at Ring Combat Sports.
Dude.
You've been with them for quite some time, and I gotta get a chance to ask you is how much do they mean to you the fact that they trained you to be the fighter that you are today?
Well, I'll tell you how much they mean to me through an example. My husband and I lived in North Carolina for a number of years and trained down there. And, I just found my combat sport through fighting, and they've just really become honestly my second family. Everybody says that, right? But that's the way it feels. And to the extent that we sold everything that we owned and moved up here to be closer to them. So we were in North Carolina. We moved, we sold our house, we bought a house here to be closer to Ring Combat Sports because that's my second family. That's my happy place. That's my stress reliever. That's all the good things I have in my life. A lot of them are tied to Ring Combat Sports.
And not to mention that though is that if there's anybody in the Withville, Virginia area, and if you had nothing to do, go be a part of this because I've learned this during my time in training is that you may have been feeling like there's so many things to do, but once I can tell you is that once you walk through those gym doors, you may not know those individuals, but they know you from the outside point of view. So I can tell you this though, being a part of an amazing gym family from the way I'm seeing down there at Ring Combat Sports is so incredible, and I encourage anybody male, female. I think they have kids classes as well. To go give us a try because I'm telling you this, you will not regret on what you're seeing from Ring Combat.
Yeah, we I take great pride in that place, and it's no credit to me. It's credit to Greg and Kim Ring and Robbie Ring. They have just really built an atmosphere where you can go and learn how to be a not sure if I can say this. You can go learn how to be a badass, but you can also go find your tribe. You can find your second family, and we just have an amazing women's presence on the mats right now, and I don't know. It's just the atmosphere they've created is truly family.
And I'm gonna say this and shout out to King to Robbie because I know they're all diehard Bengals fans. Go Steelers, by the way. I have to send a little shout out to them because every time I see their Facebook, I see them repping their little Browns gear here and there, and I'm
Yeah.
like, I'm sorry, but we're rivalry, but I definitely do respect Kim, Robbie, that whole entire bunch. But when it comes to football, that's a different side of things here.
Bit of a clash, right?
Hey, after everything that Robbie's been doing, I definitely don't want to get to a fight with him.
No, nor do I.
No, no, not for sure. And of course, the one thing I got to get a chance to ask you this though is that there's a lot of great aspects when it comes to training. There's a lot of great things that we love about it, but then there are times to where we always end up having the hardest part of training. So, from your perspective, what has been the hardest part about training?
Um, you know, I've been doing this a long time, and the hardest part to me is, getting hurt, working through that injury, getting back in there, and you feel like inevitably it always happens. You feel good, you feel like you're at the top of your game, and you get hurt, and then you go from the rooftop down to the floor because it's demor it's what's the word? Like it's just discouraging. It's discouraging,
Discouraging, yeah.
and then fighting back through your injuries and getting back out there and climbing back up to where you feel like your skill level needs to be. That's real hard.
Yeah. I really do admire that for sure because you know what, you people see you guys as fighters because you guys provide them for the entertainment. But the one thing I say is though, it takes a lot of pride to be able to do what you're doing, to train your butts off in and outside of the cage, to
Yeah.
fight through the physical aspects, the mental aspects. I mean, I've been doing interviews now for about maybe less than 2 or 3 years, and I've talked to from pros to amateurs. And
Yeah.
this stuff ain't easy. If you guys think about just going to just some cage and fight, that is not the case. Because what you see heart, you see dedication, you see legends like Joy, you see so many of these amateurs and pros training their butts off just to be able to become a victory at the end of the fight, whether it being decision or knockout, whatever it may be. So if you guys are watching these fights, especially coming up in October, just give the fighters credit where credit's due because it is never easy. I mean, as an interviewer, I see what you girls have done in the cage and outside of it, and you definitely deserve all the kudos that you girls deserve.
Thank you so much. Thank you. Women are fierce, man. I mean, the ladies' fights are frequently one of the best.
Uh, Hey, there's a reason why I'm excited for October because there's two girls fights coming up in October, and
Oh,
I know one of the girls was excited about me interviewing this Desiree, and she told me
yeah.
to tell you she says hey, by the way.
Oh, yeah. I love Desiree. She's a sweetheart.
She is a very sweetheart for sure. And of course, the one thing I got to ask you is though is that at the end of those tough days of training, whether we always have that one thing that we go to, whether it be yoga, therapy, music, cooking, whatever it may be. Do you ever have that one thing that you go to after those long days of training?
Yeah, it's my husband. He's my safe space. He's my biggest fan. He's my hero, my personal hero. So, it's just so many blessings in this life of mine, but he's one of them. And when I'm down, and I, I, I don't know anyone who takes fighting seriously that leaves the gym feeling like, yeah, I crushed that. You don't feel like you feel like, oh, I should have blocked that takedown, or I should have moved my head more. My head movement wasn't right today, or my footwork was horrible. I was lazy. I had concrete shoes today. You're critiquing yourself as you leave that door, every single thing you did wrong. And so you don't really leave feeling oftentimes like, I rock, I crushed that. Sometimes you're down on yourself because you've just worked so hard. You just work so hard and you're tired. I come home, and my husband is very encouraging and very supportive. And without fail, he reminds me, remember who you are and remember what you're capable of.
Another thing too is that I think a lot of people don't understand how difficult it is to be both a mother and a fighter. So the fact that you're doing all this, you definitely deserve a lot of applause for sure. Because I look up to you. I look up to so many women in part of the sport. Is that you girls kick so much ass, and I gotta say that because it's never easy to be both a mother and a fighter.
Well,
But you girls,
I don't have little kids, but I do have my fur babies. Those are
your
my
fur babies. I
yeah,
mean,
yeah,
hey, dog moms count. Dog moms count.
absolutely they do.
I'll say dog moms do count too. Either
Yeah,
if you're a kid mom or a dog mom, whatever type of mom you be, cat mom doesn't matter because you ladies deserve so much of the applause for sure.
it's hard to balance those relationships. And guys that take this stuff seriously, they have the struggle too, balancing giving of yourself to your significant other versus getting all the time in the gym you need. You got to have a supportive partner. It won't work.
You got to have a really good support system too. And one thing that you mentioned is that I think you said it best that we are all our biggest critics. I mean, we can give our own selves a hard time. It's like, oh yeah, I remember I did that takedown. Oh wait, but I forgot to block my head. It's always just that one little thing. But the one thing I can say is though is like at the end of the day, at the end of those training days, don't give yourself too much of a hard time because there's still plenty of days where we get a chance to just refocus, rebalance ourselves, and fix what it is that we need to do the next day.
Yeah, absolutely. That's why you keep coming back, right? You just got to
Exactly.
keep showing up.
And of course, I mean, you've been doing this sport for quite some time, and I got to get a chance to ask you this. It's maybe a little bit of a thinking process, but
Okay.
what has been the toughest fight in your career?
Um, Man, that's a good question. I fought Megan Poe at Titans of the Cage, and I just remember feeling like that first round I wasn't myself. I just really disappointed in my own performance that first round. I came back out and kind of felt like I was fighting more like myself, but then man, I think she threw a right hand at me if I recall correctly. Somehow we ended up on the bottom, and like I'm bleeding, and that girl, for the record, hits like a Mack truck. The hardest hitting fighter I've ever fought. And she hit me, and I went down, and she got on top, and she was ground and pounding me. And I can remember seeing blood like out of the corner of my eye. And I thought, I hope that's not mine. 'Cause, I mean, honestly, your adrenaline is so high at that moment. You don't really know unless you're real, real, real hurt. And I just remember thinking, I hope that's not mine. And I was just trying to remember to trap her arm and try to roll her over and deliver strikes at the same time without exposing my arm too much. And just so many thoughts. And then all I remember thinking was the pressure, like her top mount pressure, got lighter. And I thought, oh, I think my Oompa worked and I've made space. And so I come up and I'm still fighting, trying to get the turnover, and like I'm throwing punches, and no, girl, the ref stopped it.
I mean, I gotta get a chance to ask you this though, man. You talked about how you've seen your own blood. Do you ever just listen to AC/DC and you hear that one song, "If you want blood, you got it"?
Yeah, yeah, yeah. That's the, that don't bother me one bit.
At least you say you're one of those girls where you ain't afraid of no blood. You ain't afraid of no blood.
No, so incidentally, this is a fun fact. I used to be in the forensics world, and I have seen and had my hands in my share of blood. So it doesn't bother
Definitely,
me anymore.
definitely respect for that. And of course, this next question, this is something I love to get a chance to ask all fighters. This is a really heavily topic that I want to get a chance to talk about. Is that for any viewers and fighters, mental health means so much. And if you guys don't believe me, look at so many fighters who have dedicated the sport to know that mental health is a very serious thing. I mean, I could not stress enough. I mean, mental health has been a part of my life ever since I was little, and it can make a huge impact in so many ways. So my question to you is, how much has the sport helped you out mentally?
Oh my gosh, it's it's my Prozac. I mean, it's I'm sure without martial arts in my life, I'd probably be on a whole host of antidepressants or such. But it just gives my brain time to have some peace. And I don't know about you personally, I am someone who, if there's a way to overthink something, I'm going to do it.
I'm that way.
I will overthink it, but my brain just never turns off. Even when I'm getting ready to sleep at night, I'm problem solving or thinking about things I need to work on. And on the mats, when somebody's throwing punches at your face, when you're in the cage, you don't have time to think. You either
No.
better trained it long enough and hard enough that it's just muscle memory. If you think you're too slow, and it's the only time in my whole life where my brain shuts off. And that is such a gift. And I try to explain that to people that when I first meet them and I talk about fighting, but it just, until you have felt that feeling, it doesn't resonate, I don't think.
I think the one thing too is that if you look at the fighting aspects, and I take this as a mental health aspect, is that when I watch you girls and even the guys too, is that you girls go in there and you fight like the warriors you are. You're not only warriors inside the cage, but of course you're warriors outside the cage. Is that the one thing I can tell you is that I'm currently on depression medication, and
Yeah,
it's never easy. It's
right.
never easy because you end up feeling like that you're a failure. You end up feeling like that you're this or you're that, and it's like I said before, your brain never shuts
Yep.
off in the
Yes.
first place. And it's like, and I will tell you this: I am the worst person when it comes to overthinking. I can overthink so much.
Right in my soul, man.
That's why, no offense to people, is like that's why everywhere I go, even at my own job, you see me carrying around these headphones because that's my safe space, that's my go-to.
Yeah.
And what people don't understand is that when they see you training, I'm telling you this right now, this is coming from your experience. If you go to a gym, no matter what it is, a boxing, Muay Thai, kickboxing, MMA, doesn't matter. When you walk into the gym, you're gonna end up feeling a very different experience about yourself to say, wow, I can actually do all things.
Yes.
So take this from experience. Don't dwell on these thoughts that you have. Don't sit in your room and just play video games to distract your mind. If anything, those thoughts are going to get to your mind quicker than you think.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I can tell you this right now is that go and be a part of the sport, whether it being a fighter, doing what I'm doing, interviewing, because over the last couple of years, I've got a chance to meet fighters who I've literally cried on camera with
Yeah.
because they share heartfelt experience and stories that I don't want anybody to ever go through, especially with these ladies have gone through. And the
Right.
fact that you're not afraid to share the struggles of this, it really goes to show of how true of a warrior you really are today.
Oh, thank you. I just wish, honestly, I wish everyone could find martial arts. And if it's not martial arts, find that thing that just lights that spark inside of you, Because when you're burning with a passion for something you love, it's hard for those intrusive thoughts and that depression and anxiety. It's hard for that to creep in when you're on fire doing something you love.
And not to mention that, of course, it makes you feel better the fact that you get a chance to meet other people who understand you in such a beautiful way. I mean, it's a very huge blessing the fact that we're having this conversation. It's in conversations like this should happen a lot to say that fighters are not afraid to admit that they're not okay sometimes.
Right. Absolutely.
And
Absolutely.
I really think that as an interviewer, as somebody from the media, is that you don't want to get too deep unless they feel comfortable with it. If they feel comfortable with it, then that means that they trust you to share this, to know that they can talk to you, and know that the fact that they can even shed tears. And it's such a very beautiful thing. And I remember, I want to share this before I move on to the next question. Is that I remember doing my second interview with a girl named Sandra Arndt, who
Mhm.
just won the Flex Fight Series title. I think either last year or the year before last, and we started crying because of the stories that she has shared. I mean, Britton Hart, she shared some stories with me. I mean, any fighter that I've got this interview, they can tell you that they feel comfortable because the fact that I give them the platform that they deserve. So
Right.
if you're struggling right now, if you're watching this right now, whether if you are a fan or if you're a fighter, take take your mental health seriously because the last thing I think for myself and Joy can say is that we don't want you end up in a casket. We want you to keep going.
Oh,
Life
absolutely.
is not about dwelling in those thoughts. Life is about having fun and taking advantage of those thoughts that you have.
Yeah. Yeah. Absolutely. Reach out for help, man, because, the thing is, everybody goes through that. A lot of people just don't talk about it.
No,
Some people struggle more than others, but we all have those thoughts. And it should just be more socially acceptable to talk about it because, that helps people when you feel like you're not alone.
exactly. And I think that the more conversations we have like this, the more we can be able to get a chance to shine a light to other people because they definitely need it. They desperately need it. I can tell you this so from my experience. I used to be that type of person where I'd just keep everything to myself. And then by the time I come home, I just let it all out. That's not good for you
No.
in a mental way because if anything, you're holding all those thoughts in, but instead of holding them, you should be letting them out. And
Yeah.
that's why with combat sports, if you're going to a gym, let it out through a punch, let it out through a kick, or just let it out because I promise you, and I'm gonna take this for ring combat as an example. If you go to ring combat you may not know those people. You may not know Joy. You may not know Robbie. You may not know Kim. You may not know that entire family. But I can assure you is that as far as the mental side, they can understand you more than what you ever know.
Oh,
So
yeah.
please go take advantage of being a part of this amazing sport, no matter what it is.
Absolutely. Totally agree.
And I got to get a chance to ask you this though: is that we talked about this at the start of the interview? Is that you're dusting off your MMA gloves, and my question to you is, what made you step out of retirement?
Um, that's a good question. I mean, the opportunity presented itself, and I have never been one to turn down a good adventure. I mean, to me, you need to live your life looking for the next adventure. Whether it's, hey, I found, I don't know, I went on a cool hike today, or hey, I found this trail I didn't know existed. The next adventure that keeps your excitement alive and your joy of life, your joie de vivre. Uh, I don't know. I just think you should always be looking for the next thing that's gonna light you up. Make you happy. So I'm in a good place physically. My training's been even before I agreed to the fight. My training's been looking really good, like really, really good. And I the offer came through, and I said, "Let's. Why not do it one more time?"
And not to mention that, one thing I can say is that you're a supporter to all the women when it comes to the sport. I mean, as a matter of fact, we're gonna take Julia Moore, for example, who's getting ready to make her pro debut at Aries coming up in July, I believe. You know
Sure.
what? How, and we got to get just to show some love to Miss Julia as well. But how much does it mean to you the fact that you're seeing ladies like Julia and you're seeing the fights that we're going to be seeing in October mean to you the fact that there's so many women getting opportunities that they deserve?
It just lights me up in a great way. I can remember when I first started martial arts, I would walk into a gym because for my job, I traveled quite a bit, very often, for a number of years. And I would walk into a gym. I try to find somewhere to train, no matter where I went. It didn't matter. Go find the gym. Go ask if you can pay a mat fee and train that day. So I went to a lot of places over the years, and for a very, very long time, I was frequently the only girl on the mat, and I wasn't taken seriously. And I just developed this strategy where if I was someone new, enter with respect and kindness, and then find the biggest person in the room and ask if they want to spar.
That's really incredible. That is really incredible. And once again, we gotta get a chance to shout out to Julia Moore. Hey, we love you, Julia. We can't wait to see you make your pro debut coming up. I think it's in July for Aries Fight Series.
Yeah, definitely in July for Aries Fight Series. And she is just a beast. I love her so much.
I love her too. She's someone who I admire so much for what she's been doing. She's also fought for TOC as well. I think for TOC, I think they're getting ready to have some more events coming up soon. Which make sure you guys, if you guys follow me or follow Joy, make sure you guys go check out TOC as well. But when it comes to the sport, there's a lot of generations. Oh, ever since you've been fighting to where you started retiring. But my question to you is, do you ever kind of hope to inspire others by seeing you fight?
I do. I do. I think when we live our life, we influence other people with every action. Any interaction you have with someone leaves an effect or an impression, or makes a difference in that person's life, good or bad, right?
Yeah.
And I want people to look at me and say, "Oh, she looks very unassuming. She doesn't look like she would be anything. I look like a very meek person on the outside." But I want people, particularly women, to look at me and know that you can be small but fierce, and you can be kind but tough, and you can be polite but gritty. You can be classy, but you can turn that switch on and be a beast when you need to. And if I do nothing else than just hold a space for women in martial arts just by showing up continually, then that's pretty good purpose, in my opinion.
Another thing too is, and this is another thing as well, is that you can also be tiny but mighty as well.
That's right. Tiny small packages. You know?
Exactly, exactly. So we definitely salute to those who are tiny but ain't afraid to be mighty for
Yes,
sure.
yes,
Man, I tell you one thing. This has definitely been, and for my first interview back on YouTube. This has definitely been the funnest so far. And
yeah,
I'm really grateful because you know what. Before I get to my final question, is that I've seen everything that you've been doing for TOC, for what you've been doing for women's combat sports. I admire you so much because you have the heart, you have the soul, and it's always a pleasure to get a chance to talk to you every time. The fact that this is our first time we get a chance to be face to face
yeah.
is a blessing. It's a very huge honor, and I can't thank you enough for just accepting this interview.
Thank you so much. Thank you for giving me time to talk about what I love, and it's so good to meet you face to face. I feel like I know you so well because I've followed you on social media for years. But yeah, thank you so much. I appreciate it.
You definitely deserve it for sure. Now, of course, I told you about this question the other day whenever we first had this interview started, and now here it is. So I asked all the fighters this: is that at the end of the day, we all want to be recognized for something that we do in the sport. I don't want to be recognized as that one interviewer who can be cheesy, but make sure to have a great time. But
Yeah.
you as a fighter, it can be in such a very different way. So my question to you is, what's something you want to be recognized for during your time of fighting?
I want people to think back on anyone that's ever seen me fight. I want them to think back on that and remember that I was tough, that I am tough and gritty, and I don't give up when the chips are down. I'm going to fight till the end, and I want people to remember that about me. Um, I want them to remember that I was a person of my word. That I never missed weight. I want them to remember that I kept my commitments, that I acted with dignity, but that I also came to fight.
Hey, what more can you say for sure? Once again, guys, if you guys have not got a chance to follow Joy, please go follow her at Little Miss Violence on Instagram, Joy Miller on Facebook. And the one thing I can say is, whenever October hits and it's fight week, the one thing I can best assure you is that you and Rachel are gonna have an amazing fight.
Yeah,
Part of an amazing fight. I know Rachel's excited about this.
yeah,
I've got a chance to talk to her on Instagram as well. But shout out to Rachel. She
yeah.
definitely deserves really respect her for the fact that she's accepting this fight. and this is definitely going to be a very fun one coming up in October. If you guys have not followed us over at the Fighting Spotlight, what is it, Firehouse MMA, I believe.
Yeah, the fight is October 5th for Firehouse Fights. It's at the Barron Springs Fire Department. And I think it's going to be a good chance to raise money for the fire department. And just as a fighter, I'm so grateful to the Barron Springs community for having us there, and grateful to Firehouse Fights for making the fight. And also grateful to Rachel for giving me, an opportunity to get back in there again.
And not to mention that, of course, hey, there's another girls' fight as well. Hopefully, there'll be some more girls' fights to announce for this big event. Which, by the way, you guys can go check that out coming up in October. If there is a link to the fights, I'll make sure that we both will post it up there as far as any updates.
Yeah.
But before we get a chance to hop off here, I've got to do this because I'm very cheesy. But to have a legend like you on here, no, I'm not worthy. I'm not worthy.
Oh, it's not going to fit through my door.
You know what? The one thing I can honestly say is that to hear the journey, everything that you went through, to know of how much support and how much you've been doing for women's MMA and kickboxing, it's just an amazing time and an amazing experience. And I just can't wait to see what's next, especially coming up in October.
Yeah.
Definitely got a lot to get a chance to talk about. Before we hop off the air, I just want to say I am very, very proud of you because it
Thank you.
takes a lot of heart, it takes a lot of courage, it takes a lot of strength to be able to for you to come out of retirement to get back in there. It's very, very exciting. I know Desiree's excited. I'm excited. I think everybody in the Virginia area is very excited to get a chance to see you return to fight. So before we hop off the air, do you have any final thoughts or comments you want to say?
Um, do you mind if I say some thanks?
Of course, yeah. Yeah, do you want me to let the screen be all yours?
No, you're good. You're
Uh,
good.
Go ahead.
Just a few quick thank yous. I just want to say thanks to God for giving me such an amazing life and so many opportunities and blessings, too many to count. Thank you to my husband for being my rock, my hero, and my number one supporter, number one fan. Thank you to all my training partners and coaches at Ring Combat Sports, and just for anybody who has watched me and given me, a word of encouragement here or there, and sent me kind words on social media. If you've ever done that for me, I appreciate you from the bottom of my heart, and hope that you can all come out and watch Rachel and I have a good throwdown on October 5th at Firehouse Fights at the Barron Springs Fire Department.
And make sure you guys go follow Firehouse Fights. I believe it's a Firehouse Fights on Instagram, which you guys go get a chance to check that out. And of course, I want to get a chance to thank everybody who was, allow me to get a chance to come back because it's been quite some time. I think maybe about 2 or 3 months since I got a chance to do an interview. Personally, thanks to you for allowing me to get a chance to do this interview. And I'm just very thankful for what God is going to be doing for you, what God's going to be doing as far as Firehouse Fights coming up in October. You guys do not want to miss out. I will make sure that I'm there on October 5th.
Yay! I need a hug.
Hey, if I'm getting a hug, can I get an autograph?
Oh, you got it, man. Anything.
Gladly, because I don't know if I'm gonna show you this. I have a wall of autographs from different pros and amateurs.
Cool.
I think my friend Chrissy Young sent me some fight shorts. Shout out to Chrissy. So I would love to get a chance to add you to this huge wall that I got going on.
We're gonna make it happen.
I'm very excited. Hey, thank you so much for the time. I will definitely send you the link if you want to get a chance to share it to your social media. And hey, God bless you and have an amazing night. Okay, my friend.
Too much love. Bye.
Much see you, girl. All right, ladies and gentlemen, that was the one and only Miss Joy Miller. I've had a very amazing, exciting time, and I hope you guys did too. Because coming up Tuesday, we got Miss Desiree joining us this coming Tuesday. We're still waiting on the time, so make sure you guys go follow me at the Fighting Spotlight, so that way you guys won't get a chance to miss out on this very huge interview. But hey, until then, if you guys are watching this and if you have not subscribed to the YouTube channel, please subscribe to the YouTube channel. But until then, I am Jake, not from State Farm, and saying so long, and we'll see you guys next time.